Good morning, Sir Maarten. Not my regular time, not my regular day for a show. My show from Monday, unfortunately, had to cancel because we had no internet. Yesterday, at about 10:25, I believe, 10:28, again, internet was gone and the show was cancelled. So maybe that was a signal not to have that show. That was a rough show, but I'm gonna put it on the side for now, and I'm gonna deal with that show as we go along. But I think what's extremely important for me to address is GEBE. Not just GEBE, the company, because GEBE, the company, is a building with people with a few engines. But GEBE, the problem, the electricity crisis, the economy, the hardships, the hurricane season, this is what needs attention. This is what we have to do. And GEBE has been a problem, not from today, not from yesterday, but neither from 40 years ago, as I heard somebody that I have a lot of respect for, knowledge, make that statement. GEBE was a good company in the 80s, took a nosedive in the 90s, and then was brought back up to par and was managed well by Mr. Julius Lambert, by Mr. Brooks, and we suddenly started to play politics. But this show is not about pointing fingers, because I don't have no time for that. I think the public of St. Maarten needs to hear what is ahead for them. What is the timeline going to look like? Because we can have all sorts of nice talk. The bottom line in all of this is, when will this electricity crisis be solved? When will we be able to go to sleep and not worry if we are going to sleep in heat or the fan going to continue running for the night? Now, is there a quick fix solution to the present GEBE? Absolutely not. There is not. But it is not only doom and gloom that we should preach when we talk about GEBE. I think GEBE have a good group of people that want to do what's right for the company and for the country by extension. The problem is too often that we hear about political interference, or we hear the board doing this, or we hear a politician doing that, or we hear a company doing it. Look, at the end of the day, there's one thing that the people of St. Maarten are interested in: having reliable energy and water. For the rest, they're not interested. And the second thing that they need is it to be affordable. They got to be able to pay their bills at the end of the month. GEBE can't take all their money, so they can't eat and they can't pay rent, because that's another problem we are confronted with, but not something that GEBE management can do much about in the present situation. And that is the fuel clause. But I want to, get away from who did what, who didn't do what. I read nearly all the stories on Facebook. I read the journals. I listened to the various radio talk shows talk about GEBE. But no matter how much we bitch and moan, no matter how much we point fingers and we blame people, it ain't gonna fix the solution to get GEBE reliable right now. Because that's what I am concerned about. We are going into the hurricane season. I don't know if all you realize what has happened this last week, from weekend to now. We lost GEBE based on load shedding and a total blackout, and then we lost TLM. And basically 70% of this island could not communicate. You couldn't call the ambulance, you couldn't call the police, you couldn't do nothing. Alarm systems were not working. People, these are serious consequences to your economy. We got to understand this. We speak of a cashless society, but your bank cards can't work because the company where you go to shop ain't got a generator. Think further than your nose. Look further, because these are problems that are derived from a common denominator: electricity. It isn't a luxury to have electricity. It isn't a luxury to have internet. It's a necessity because that's how the world is turning today. Banks are telling you they ain't doing checks no more. It's all online. But if you can't get online, you can't do nothing. Now, again, I can sit here for an hour and throw blame. But I want to change that around. And I want to say, okay, I think we know basically who might have done what and who might not. But I'll tell you one thing. The campaign season will serve all of us well. Because everybody going to go there gearing up with all sorts of solutions and all sorts of BS. And they're going to blame this one who was there the past 4 years. Or they're going to say it was from the clod. What he did, that's why it's so bad. And they're in the 2x4 government. Listen, none of that nonsense is going to bring St. Maarten back to where it needs to be. Where we can at least put on the lights and not go back to the 1991, 1993 era. Most of you all that are talking might not have been here at that time when GEBE took a serious plunge. From 1991 to 1993, where every day GEBE was off. Every day. And not for an hour. Sometimes for 6 hours. Again, we have reached a period now where in GEBE, the maintenance, not because they don't want to do it, but because most probably they can't afford to do it, or they can't take an engine offline, or whatever the question is or reason is. Right now, that's not relevant. You know what's relevant? That we find a solution like yesterday to get GEBE back, not even to N2, because N2 is wishful thinking. N-2. That's wishful thinking right now. What does N-2 mean for those that don't understand the terminology? It means that if you would lose your two biggest engines in the power plant, you still have enough capacity to run the plant serving everybody with electricity. We lost the N-2 a while ago when engine 19 went down. And I will come to that engine just now because this thing about we overhauling, give a timeline. Management, give a timeline, because what I am hearing is that the crankshaft is damaged, and if that crankshaft needs replacing, you are looking at most probably December of 2024. That is 6 months away, people. That's 6 months that engine will be offline. That's what people need to understand. Is it good that we start investing in generators or in solar panels? Or let me ask the question, do we have the money as residents to do that? You see, these are the things that as government, as trust fund, as the Netherlands, maybe if you want to help St. Maarten, sending engines from Curacao and Aruba is a nice gesture, an appreciated gesture. It is, I think they said they're going to bring down 3 engines, 320 megawatt engines. That was great news. That's 60 megawatts. That's more than we produce every day. That's great to have 3 engines to do that. There is a problem though. Where are we going to put them? On the dump? Because there is no place down in GEBE to put 3 engines like that. There is no place. So again, it sounds nice. But let's start thinking out of the box. What can you do in a situation like this? Now, I've spoken of this before. Let me bring it back to the forefront, because in St. Maarten, the one thing we have a bad thing with is memory loss. We forget too fast. And because we forget, we don't know what we're going to do. But we need to look at GEBE right now in 3 phases. Short term, mid-term, long term. The short term is you need power now. Now, what can you do? GEBE has a couple of big users. Think on places like Maho. The whole Maho village and all them. They take a lot of electricity. They used to run their own power plant. GEBE took a turn on them and forced the government to tell them they got to come online. They can't stay offline because GEBE ain't going to make the money. So now they're offline and GEBE can't give them. They have a big solar plant down there. But I know they used to have Caterpillar engines. Maybe, just maybe, they can get back online with 2 megawatts. Supply themselves and take the burden away from GEBE. Port Plaisance was another one that used to have engines. Maybe we can get those back up and running. Take them off of the grid. Let them run. Give them leeway for a year or 2 so that they can make back the investment that they have to put on there to be able to give themselves electricity. Because we can't give it to them, and we can't continue knocking out hotels where tourists are paying big money to have a holiday. Think of the consequences. Because when we become, and forgive me for saying this, because I don't like to do this, when you become as unreliable for electricity as Haiti is, you ain't gonna get no tourists. There are other islands like Antigua, St. Kitts, Anguilla, Saba, Statia, where they're guaranteeing them electricity because they have alternative electricity. Nevis, all of them, they're full of solar energy. Only we don't have. But that is a midterm solution right now. It is not anymore a short term. A short term solution is containerized power. Bring in containers where engines are installed in them, where it is a quick fix, not a just plug in water and fuel and pull an electricity card and put it in the socket and you got current. No, it's a little more than that. But it is a very efficient way, not necessarily a cheap way, but an efficient way to get reliable power back. If you need to do this for 6 months so that you can get your power plant back up to par, or for a year, this is where, if you're going to help the country, it is a direction to look, because we cannot allow the country to go into the hurricane season and people don't know if they're going to have power, yes or no. People don't know if they're going to have internet, yes or no. We have a high season 5 months away, and we cannot guarantee anybody reliable electricity. How do you sell the product, St. Maarten? The island of no electricity? The island of unreliable electricity but friendly people? Come on. We got to get very serious when we talk. And I know we will be doing a lot of lip service for the next coming 6 weeks because elections due. But that's not going to solve the problem. I think the government, by extension, should put a committee together that has power to do what it has to do. Not every minute go come back. Hundreds of millions were dumped into the trust fund. The Prime Minister is now in Washington trying to save $200 million that might not be able to finish use because we don't have capacity and we don't have this, and the projects need to be extended, and the trust fund might have to stay till 2028 and continue paying money. A lot of money that's on the bank now has yielded serious interest. I haven't heard a soul talk about that. There must be tens of millions for the last few years that have been accumulated in interest. Why isn't this money used to inject directly into GEBE? GEBE needs help now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. They need help now. And there are a few things that they're going to need to get St. Maarten back to where it is. I gave you one. Leave the hotels, them produce their power. They used to do it in the past. Maybe they can still do it. If they can, give them that freedom. Talk to EDF on the French side. Do they have spare capacity that they can put online by us instead of us load shedding? Because every time we load shed, we make no money. Let's not fool ourselves. GEBE ain't collecting no money. So, take it from EDF and sell it to your client and bill them. Because I am sure that the electricity on the French side don't cost what it costs on the Dutch side. I don't think it costs 40 euro cents per kilowatt hour, because that's where we're close to. We are very close to that. So I think if they can give us something, take it. And then the containerized power. You can buy these containers or rent them. Turkey is one of the countries that really does this a lot. They have portable power, they call it. You can even bring a badge and pack it up in front of GEBE and run the cables into the system of GEBE, and you have reliable power. That can happen 10 times faster then bringing 3 engines from Curacao that you have no place to put because you got to decommission what you got to create a place to put them. If that is the intention, then tell the people of St. Maarten that, for God's sakes. Stop talking and we're going to have a conversation with the conversation to tell them what? Tell them the truth. That's what we got to do. Tell the people the truth. Tell them what they're up against this hurricane season with the reliability of electricity. I don't know how else to do this and how else to bring it. I don't want to sound like I'm upset, but I am upset because we didn't need to reach to this stage. And again, campaign season, I know they're going to make use of it to point fingers. I might do it myself because I know enough of the story. But that doesn't solve this problem right now. It doesn't solve it. It might solve which government we're going to put. But the previous one didn't do it either. So again, let's not be fooled. Let's find a constructive way of solving this serious electricity crisis we have. Remember, the Netherlands made funds available for sustainable alternative energy. 200 million euros. An envelope was made available. The former Prime Minister graced the front pages of every media house with her picture and that of the Minister of Energy and Climate, Rob Jetten from the Netherlands, that they signed on to this up until this day. What have we done for projects to get to that money? We speak about the grid market and all those things, and they laid out a path to renewable energy or alternative energy, whatever energy you want to call it. Where are the tangibles? They are no place. The World Bank for 6 years has been working on so-called fixing the landfill. There was to be a waste to energy back in 2017, and people can say what they want about Emmanuel on this one. The Council of Ministers, which included the former leader of the NA, the Honorable William Allen. He was the Prime Minister when this went down, and then they moved him because they dangled the carrot. But that time, the Minister of Education was MP Sylvia Jacobs. She too approved it. And in 2018, the Leona Marlin government came in, and after 10 months, they pushed it aside. Mind you, everything was ready, with exception of GEBE accepting the power purchase agreement. They had an issue with it. They found it was being rammed down their throat. And all I can say, we would have been able to have 15 megawatts at a much lower price than we're paying today for GEBE kilowatt hours, between the fuel clause and the fixed rate. We would have been paying a much lower rate. Again, it's water under the bridge, but where do we go from here? Where do we go? Because the same World Bank is talking about a waste-to-energy plant. But we got to go find the money for it at St. Maarten, because they don't have it. And I'm saying, but wait, we had an offer where we didn't have to pay a cent for it. All we had to do was guarantee 2 things: garbage and the power purchase agreement. Unfortunately, we didn't get a power purchase agreement through GEBE, and the deal sank through, and after 10 months, the government cut their losses and moved on. But if we don't do the containerized power, if we don't, or a badge to give power by GEBE, or allow some of the big boys to get offline and do their own thing, or get power from the French side right now, we're going to have a very serious problem. Don't let nobody fool you. I go look to see if I can find a generator to run at your house, but God, we're going to have serious problems. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Don't fool yourself. Once you get into this electricity crisis, it is Robert's Rules of Order. When the shit start rolling downhill, it only gets bigger, because it picks up more. And that's what's going to happen in the power plant just now. We're going to keep getting bigger problems. because those engines have not been overhauled for a long time. Not because they didn't want to, but because they couldn't pay for it very often. GEBE was hacked, they didn't have the money, they couldn't make bills, they couldn't pay their people, they had problems. Again, not the reason not to do something now. You can't just throw up your hands. And I don't want to say Mr. Washington is throwing up his hands. I think he's trying his utmost under the conditions he's finding himself into. But unfortunately, the country doesn't have the time to hang around until we fix it. They're going to need to find a more efficient solution. And I believe the short term is going to be those containerized units. When you look at the midterm, because the short term is 0 to 6 months. When you look at the midterm, you need to start thinking on solar panels. We have spoken about this, and I saw there was a gentleman, I don't want to use his name, I don't like to mention people's names, that put it on Facebook that, you know, what all solar panels can use, and you can use refurbished solar panels without really losing any efficiency. I think it's a great something. I spoke to him briefly about it. I'm going to have an in-depth discussion with him to see what it really can do for the country and how we can implement it. There are a lot of people in St. Maarten that do solar panels. There are companies here that do solar paneling. Maybe, just maybe, we gotta start thinking out of the box. And we have to start looking at, okay, let us look for homes that are willing, that have a good roof on top, that are willing to put solar panels, where we will take the electricity that is converted through the panels and put it on the grid. And once it's on the grid, GEBE has that power to use. Batteries are expensive, but maybe you're going to have to invest into that a little bit, that some can be stored in the house too, so when GEBE load shedding, at least the house got a little current too. You don't need air cores and everything on, but lights, fridge, fans, you know, the basic minimum, that at least we can go that direction. Those big engines that you have in GEBE, maybe you can transform them into LNG gas, 1 or 2 of them, and you will have a savings on fuel. And then hopefully, just hopefully, the government will commission the waste-to-energy plant, asking the trust fund to turn over that envelope to NVGB through BZK with a Dutch partner. And I'm intentionally saying a Dutch partner so that they don't think we're going to thief their money. Let a Dutch company come down and set it up, because Holland is full of waste-to-energies too. Let us not do as if they don't do it. I think the former MP in Holland, Jurien Wuiter, was looking at a plausible waste-to-energy partner for St. Maarten a year and a half or 2 ago. That too never materialized. I don't know why, but unfortunately it didn't. But it is to show you, had we in 2017 done this, we would have been 15 megawatts out of the woods, because we would have been burning garbage, which we have no fuel clause to pay for, and GEBE was paying, I think it was 15 or 17 US cents per kilowatt hour. Don't hold me to that, I think it was 17 kilowatt hours. It was 26 for us because we wanted them to do landfill mining. But if you leave out the landfill mining, just the electricity, I think you were at 17 cents or 15 cents. And if you make more than 15, you can even go down. But it would mean you need more garbage. That's what it would mean. This was there, and for whatever, it is gone. So again, we can bring it back in the midterm. The long term, we have to look at the various streams of alternative energy. Wind energy. KMA did a whole research on the east coast of St. Maarten. So that's the Guana Bay area there, right up to Point Blanche. That whole area, you can put a few wind turbines. Curacao has what? 20, 30 wind turbines. Aruba got them. Bonaire got them. Nevis got. But we don't have. Why we can't put a few? It is, maybe you put 2 or 3 of 3 megawatt each. That's 9 megawatt. That, if you like it or not, that's nearly 8 to 10% of GEBE's daily production. if you have some in energy, in wind, you have some in solar, you have some out of the waste energy, eventually you're going to have more than 50% of your grid in alternative energies. And the market, the grid market, that's what they do. They bring them together and you ensure that reliability is ensured as much as possible. And you will have your electricity plant there producing an X amount and having enough on standby to replace the grid if needed, because you lose wind or you lose solar or you're doing waste energy that day because you're overhauling the turbine, whatever it may be. That is your long term. That is not overnight. But we got to do it from now. So I'm happy that Holland, Aruba, and Curacao said they'll give a helping hand, because hopefully when they speak, we will listen, because when we speak, nobody listens. It's always, oh, yeah, let them talk. They know what they're talking about. And then they come with the same idea from Curacao. Yeah, great idea. That's how stupid we are. That's why we go no place. Sorry to say it. But that mentality we can't use right now when it comes to GEBE. We need a group of people that are willing to make the harsh calls. You got to make them. Because if we don't make them, it's going to be a serious problem. There's a pushback in both groups. We always have a pushback shoes, always. If we didn't have a pushback, we wouldn't have a human being. Not everybody agrees with everybody. In Curacao, in Aruba, I think right now they got the government in courts for the sewage plant that was never maintained, and consequently now a Dutch hotel has taken them to courts for millions in damages, if I'm not mistaken myself. Curacao, Aruba have the landfill on fire all the time. Curacao was having issues with their landfill and other things. So again, you always have problems. It doesn't mean say you don't look for the solutions and you don't start thinking out of the box. That's what we got to do. People, I think if we do some of these things, the savings at GEBE can be astronomical when it comes to fuel. 10 to 15 million guilders easily a year. When you talk about 15 megawatt that you're replacing from engine power to alternative power. So again, you have an envelope every year then to continue investing and continue upgrading once the initial stuff is done. And the waste to energy plant, that is alternative energy. That is sustainable energy. That 200 million euro envelope should be tapped in. You don't need to redo the plans. The plans existed. The former Prime Minister could have asked her former party colleague, Emmanuel, or better stated, Vromi, to turn over the plans. The whole dossier was there. The whole dossier was there. And they could have done something with it. But because of who it was and what it was, is where it stayed. Unfortunate, but truthful. That's the big difference. I think we need to look forward positively as a people. Again, like I said, the blame game, I leave that for the political arena because I know they're going to do it. But it's not going to solve our problems at GEBE right now. So I hope maybe all those people at oil at go at TLM can be trained in solar energy so that when we start the midterm program in a few months, those people can assist in programming, setting up the panels, etc., etc. And at least not be sitting at home twiddling their thumbs, but get something to do productively with their time. I think I have said what I wanted to say today. My original show will touch a few other things. What I had planned was to really look at GEBE also from a different angle and look at our political situation. But I don't think that warrants my attention right now. I think GEBE warrants my attention. So I hope that this is given ample thought. And I know the Minister of Romi is going on the radio just now and is going to discuss GEBE. She came out of GEBE. She knows much more than I might know. So I hope that we hear tangible stuff at 12 o'clock. I hope on Friday when the managing board of GEBE or the temporary managing director and the board of directors at the interview, they give some very serious timelines to the people of St. Maarten at what we are looking at and what we can expect happening over the next 3 to 6 months. Again, I want to stress, this is not a one-day solution-oriented problem. This is a very, very serious issue we have, and we have to deal with it as such. You know, we preach transparency. Lord, let's just show it this time around. The people of St. Maarten deserve better with the truth. We should know what's really happening. Press releases that I have seen coming out explaining to me about load shedding, that's all nice and dandy. But at the end of the day, as a customer of GEBE, I demand more responsibility from GEBE. I'm not asking for a favor. I'm demanding responsibility. I'm demanding that I'm told what's wrong and when I can expect this to be resolved and how it will be resolved. Because if there's cost for the consumer, don't just go out on a wild, wild west and then the consumer can't pay the bills and you can't pay your bills. That's it for today, people. Have a great Wednesday. I hope load shedding is over, but I know it's not because Don Kim Shah, they can't open the businesses again. But nevertheless, Bunks is out. Take care. Have a great Wednesday, Thursday.